All right, welcome to Rick's Corner. I have Pete Koch here today, who is well known throughout the world for who he is, and Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood, and Big Swede, and an actor, and a trainer, and a very smart man when it comes to nutrition and training and how to get yourself in shape. He has the answers to everything. I mean, he really does. We just had a nice lunch over in Toluca Lake, and now we're back here to shoot a show.
Yeah.
How easy is that?
I appreciate the kind words, Rick.
Well, we found out something, Pete and I, when we watched that. What was that fight that we saw with...
We watched Colin McGregor.
Yes.
And Floyd Money Mayweather.
Okay. Here's what happened. I went to Pete's house, and you're on 11th and... it was Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay. And I used to live at 10th and Wilshire, 1 block away, 1 block over. And when I went back to his house that night, I brought back memories of when I moved to Santa Monica back in 1970. I had a 1-bedroom furnished apartment at 10th and Wilshire, which is like the really nice part of Santa Monica.
That's nice.
And it cost me $135 a month, which furnished, and which is like nothing today. And then Pete has one like a 1 block over, and it runs you how much?
Oh, well, I mean, what the market value is on that now?
Right now.
Right now is put a 2,000 in front of what you pay.
Yeah, that's how the rent's gone up over the years, and they have rent control. So if I would have stayed there, maybe it would be like $300 a month now.
Right.
And then I moved down to Venice, or not Venice, but Santa Monica on Strand and Ocean, 2-bedroom, 2-bath on a sun deck, which overlooked the ocean, 1 block away, for $165 a month, and I should have kept it. Because if I walked across the street, I had the whole Pacific Ocean, and if I walked behind me 1 street, I had World Gym, and then down 1 mile was Gold's Gym. So it's changed over the years, and what I wanted to talk about, not only that, but I was talking to Pete about how things have changed at Gold's and the Firehouse, which I'll get into, but things in Santa Monica, because going down there as a kid, now, when did you move to LA? What year?
Yeah, 1986.
Okay. Back in the 50s, long before you, my mom, my dad would take us to Santa Monica, and we stayed right on the beach for a month. Right down the walkway was Muscle Beach. They had a big wooden platform out there with weights. People like Steve Reeves and Dick Dubois, Armand Tandy, all those guys were working out down there. So that was basically the mecca of bodybuilding. That was Muscle Beach at the time, not Venice. They would have their contests on the beach. They'd have the women competitors. They would have acrobats and gymnastics shows. And the beaches were just crowded with thousands of people who would come down from the other side of Los Angeles during the summer to be on the beach. They had a tram that went from Santa Monica Pier to the Ocean Park Pier for a nickel, and it would hold 12 people. And that tram, I can hardly even find pictures of it today. I think I have 1 photo of it, but it had a little motor in the back. Kids on roller skates would hang onto the back, and it would pull them down the boardwalk. I mean, I'm going back in time, but back then it was a cool place to be. You had Pacific Ocean Park, which is an amusement pier, and it had all the rides. It had the fun house, the lady in the top of the glass house going, ah, ha, 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 as you get locked in the maze, and they had the roller coaster. And it was a quarter. Actually, no, it was free to get on the pier, but it was a quarter for a piece of pizza, a quarter for a ride, and then they had the Dome Theater where I first saw King Kong, and they had a deli. Now, these times, there were much crime at all. You could walk the beach from Santa Monica to Venice and not even see anything wrong at 2 o'clock in the morning and not even be afraid. Big time difference.
Bit different now.
Bit different now. Venice Beach was non-existent really as far as anything with bodybuilding. And then later, they had closed down Muscle Beach. Apparently there were some guys that were like sexually assaulting young girls, and so they said, get the bodybuilders off the beach to give it a bad name. They moved it up to the, it was a hotel right there above. They went, I can't remember the name of the hotel, but they moved it to Muscle Beach Gym underneath. And then they moved it over to 4th and Broadway next to an all-you-could-eat rrestaurant. And the guy that had the restaurant says, look, I can't stay in business here. Bodybuilders coming in every night and they're eating all my chicken. So he changed it from all-you-could-eat to the best you could eat, because they were coming in with their workout bags with foil and taking the chicken home and, 20 chicken breasts. And it was just really weird how things had changed like that. To go out down the beach to Joe Gold's gym, which had opened in '65, and brought everybody off the beach and put them in the gym down there. It changed everything. But what I'm saying is times change, and back then, when my parents used to say the good old days, I kind of get what they mean, because they're talking about the 20s. Now I'm talking about the 50s and 60s. Even the 70s were the good old days for me, because that's when times were really good in bodybuilding and the gyms and the beaches and no crime. So I was telling you that I went down to the Firehouse last week. I was going to meet you. You got busy, and your dog had a dog fight.
Yeah.
How's the dog now?
She's gonna be fine.
Okay. So I went to the Firehouse, which usually is a pretty busy place.
It has historically been an extremely busy restaurant.
Yeah, full of guys from Gold's and tourists. I was the only one in there. I was literally the only person in the restaurant. And the guy says, it's been this way all week, and I don't know why. You did say that the Rose opened up across the street, and maybe they're taking all the business.
Rose Cafe reopened, and that's the other sort of legendary restaurant that Arnold and Franco used to eat at all the time. But then they completely revamped it, and it's become an incredibly popular, trendy, somewhat expensive restaurant.
Well, even the Firehouse. I mean, I had a chicken breast, eggs, and pancakes. I couldn't walk out of there for under $25. That's not too cheap. So I looked around. I thought, okay, I'm thinking about the days when it was really busy and what the beaches were like and everything, and I felt a little sad about it. And so I had time to kill to pick my daughter up from LAX, and I went over to Gold's, went to the pro shop and walked around, and I noticed that the clothing has been pretty much the same for the past year or two. They haven't really upped any new clothes. And I asked the pro shop manager, when are you getting something new? And she said, next week. And I said, okay, I'll come back in. But then walking around the gym and looking, that it's not the same. Of course it's not the same. It's been years and there's all new people. But you're so used to seeing people you know, and when you walk around you don't see anybody you know. And this is where you grew up. It's just a weird feeling.
It's like so many great institutions. I think we would like to see them stay the same. I not only have been a member of Gold's Gym in Venice, the Mecca, since 1986, but I also worked for the corporate team in the 90s when that gym was owned by Tim Kimber and Pete Gromkowski and Ed Connors. But when they sold the gym, I guess it's 15 years ago, it's changed hands a couple of times since then. It's become quite a corporate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not what it was when it was on one owner with Joe Gold and you had all the guys that hung out together. However, I guess the 80s were pretty good.
I think that little bit of history, I know you've talked about it on your show before. I think it is somewhat interesting that Pete Gromkowski, who people think of as this guy with a fantastic physique and was Mr. World, but he was a heck of a businessman.
Yeah.
And when there was one owner, I believe, in between Joe Gold and Pete Gromkowski.
There was.
But Pete Gromkowski is the man.
Actually, there were two owners.
With two.
It's changed twice.
Okay.
But Pete, go ahead.
But Gromkowski is the man responsible from turning one gym into, at its peak, through their licensing program, there was more than 700 Gold's gyms around the world. I think that number is actually a bit lower right now.
Yeah.
But Pete Gromkowski was a heck of a businessman, and when he felt the timing was right, he and his partners sold out, and things
they made a bundle of money off that gym. A bundle into the millions each partner, and I mean it's still a good gym. You've got like 5 big rooms. You can find any piece of equipment you want in triplicate if you want to use something.
It's a bucket list gym, and I don't know how many gyms in the entire world that if you really care about bodybuilding or women's physique or fitness, that if there's one gym in the world that you want to see and train in your lifetime, there's only, by the way, not everybody really understands, we call it the Mecca of bodybuilding. Only one Gold's Gym is allowed to call itself the Mecca.
Yeah.
And it's always been this way. It's just that location on Hampton Avenue in Venice. The other Gold's gyms have full privileges to their marks and logos, but they're not allowed to use the Mecca.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Makes sense, though.
It is.
But I had a newscaster out here one day, and they were talking about Google taking over Gold's Gym because they own the block.
Right. They own every building on the block.
They own every building on the block. And I had done a funny little design about Google's Gym with the same bodybuilder that I drew holding computers on the weights. Maybe I can find it and put it up here. And so when they sent him out here, it was on a Sunday. I was barbecuing, and they called me from NBC. Can we come out and interview you about the takeover of Gold's Gym with Google? I said, sure, but let me finish my steak. So they said, I think Robert Kavasiak, who's in Channel 4, comes out, he comes in my den, he's like, I got Rick Drasin here, we're going to talk about the original Gold's Gym down on Hampton Street. And I said, wait, excuse me one second. This is where this thing comes in about fake news. I don't like to use that term because I don't want to be Donald Trump, but it was fake news because he says the original gym, the Mecca of bodybuilding. I said, no, you got your facts wrong. The original gym was at 1006 Pacific. And it's still there as a house, but it still says Gold's Gym on the outside. I said, then it moved to 2nd Street in Santa Monica next to the Pussycat Theater. And that building was owned by Robert Blake, the actor. Then it moved again over to Hampton. So basically the gym you're talking about now as the original is the third move. It's not the original. And the news didn't know this. So what I'm trying to say is that they throw stuff out there sometimes saying that this is a fact, but it's not a fact.
And it's an important distinction. Yeah, people do think that they are very often think they're going into the original Gold's Gym. They're not any longer. But they are going into the Mecca. So
yeah. I mean, you're going to get the same sort of a feeling, or not really the same feeling, but you're going to get the people that train and all the weights and all that kind of stuff in that gym. It's not like any other gym you've ever been to. But it's like with the news when they said that just recently we've had all these fires in Los Angeles. They said Beverly Hills is under fire. 100 celebrities were evacuated, which is not true. It was Bel Air, and only 3 celebrities had to take charge of leaving their homes just in case. So there you go again. They're taking it out of proportion, and they go crazy with it, you know?
However, I do recommend that if you get a chance to come by, it's still a great place to train. And you know this, there's actually some of the original equipment going all the way back to Pacific is still...
I was just going to say that. You
can still get your work out with it. You can still use that. Some of the original pieces from the original Gold's Gym location.
Yeah, they are there. There's a lot of it scattered around somewhere. I know a couple people that have some dumbbells and some other machines around the country. One guy sent me an email that says, I have the original bench that you and Arnold did bench presses on, the same one. And he says, I'm in San Diego, but I'm going to come by and drop it off, and you can have it this year, meaning probably next year. Huh. But it does exist, and he has it.
Did he send you a picture?
Yes, he sent me pictures of it, and I want that bench.
Wow, that is pretty great.
I have the original table saw out in my carport that Joe Gold built all the boards for all of his benches and wrapped them in leather and foam, and that table saw is sitting out there in my carport right now. He gave it to me back in the 80s because I was building something on my house.
Very nice.
I won't get rid of it. It's a piece of history.
Yeah, I agree. But that bench is really special.
Yeah,
that's something.
I want to get my hands on that bench.
And I wonder if you can match it to some photos you could find. Maybe
I have it.
I have
a picture of me benching with Arnold. So I'll put it up with Arnold spotting me on that very bench.
That'd be great.
So I'm gonna get my hands on that thing. But it has changed a lot, and you know, bodybuilding's changed a lot. Of the guys have moved to Vegas, I heard.
You know, there was a mass migration of elite bodybuilders that used to train for a long time all through the 80s. This location, the current location in Venice, the Mecca's been there since 1980. So, but someplace in the 2000s, there was a big move, and a bunch of bodybuilders all picked up and moved to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And basically, so that they could buy a house, so that they wanted to live someplace affordable.
It's a lot cheaper there. And Vegas isn't like you think as far as the gambling and the main strip. When you live there, there's suburbs that have just regular homes and regular lifestyle, and that's what it is, and then the gym, of course. And so it's not, it's a lot different than the beach. You don't have any water. And it is a desert. It does get hot, it does get cold, but apparently they like it there.
You know, it's so different. And, you know, on my Instagram account, I like to, I just have a little bit of fun, and I post historic, rare photographs of, and it's in, I credit you for getting me so interested in the golden era of bodybuilding, and so I post them on my Instagram account. I came across a photo recently, I'll post this real soon, of Arnold and Franco with a beach towel over their each shoulder, walking through the sand at the beach. They're going to get a tan. And first of all, you know they came straight out of Gold's Gym, just walk a block, and then they're in one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And secondly, that's back when bodybuilders used to get tan.
Yes.
What happened? Now everybody gets orange.
Yeah, I talked about this once. If you guys have never been out here, and you really need to come out sometime and take a week in Santa Monica and Venice, there's a lot to see, a lot to do. There's a lot of good restaurants. And take a look at the gym and meet some people. You'll enjoy it. But the gym was really, if you went one block over, you're on the beach. And we all laid out in the sun. That's where we got our tan. There were no tanning beds. There were no tanning sprays and any of that kind of stuff. It was a healthy lifestyle. So you got tan in different areas because your shoulders being up in the air, the sun would hit on the shoulders and then the chest, and you get all these shadows underneath. And that's what made a good, healthy-looking glow. It wasn't this spray thing where you turn orange and you see the whites around the eyes from all the orange faces and that. That's just looks so unhealthy.
It's crazy, you know. It is I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm a fitness buff, and I try to be a leader. I try to lead from the front. One of the things, and I collaborate with medical doctors every chance I get, and I know some brilliant people that I work with. And I was talking to one of my doctor friends the other day. When I played for the Los Angeles Raiders, our team doctor was Robert Huizinga. Rob Huizinga is an doctor of internal medicine, and he's got a practice in Beverly Hills. And one of the things I discuss with him quite often is he talks to me about people are he has to supplement 70% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D.
Yeah. Yeah.
70%. So he's writing them prescription grade vitamin D, but he also tells them, hey, you can get outside. The vitamin D is free. It's plentiful. And when you live here in Southern California,
You get a ton of it.
You get tons of it. There's literally maybe only 10 days in a year where you can't go and get it on yourself for free. So when I hearken back to the Arnold and Dave Draper and Franco days, the Rick Drasin days of bodybuilding, it was truly a healthy lifestyle. Now I've got a bodybuilder friend I was talking to him about. This guy competes at a high level in bodybuilding at Gold's Gym. I won't mention his name. He's a white guy, but he supplements vitamin D, and then he puts paints himself for the competition, and he takes vitamin D. I'm like, what part? There's something wrong there. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying get overexposed to vitamin D. You need to be alert to too much. Certainly don't want to get sunburned. But my goodness, our species was created to live outside.
Yeah.
What in the world happened? So go out, get a little sun on your body, and let's get away from this epidemic of people being. There's nothing to fear unless you have a family history of skin cancers. This is not something to be feared. Get a moderate amount of sun in your life, and it will elevate your mood, make you look, feel, and be a better person.
Well, I do have a history of skin cancer ever since I lived at the beach because of all the years I laid out in the sun, fried myself, and I do get it checked out every couple of months, and I get it removed, and they freeze it or they cut it, whatever. But the only thing is, it comes back. It's okay. It's not killing me, but it comes back. So they said stay out of the sun. I do take vitamin D because I'm low in it, and so I take it. But I still like the sun one of these days. I like to go out in my backyard and sit for a half hour, not fry myself or burn myself, but it just feels good. It's like magnetic, There
is something. It's magical. You know what makes us feel good? It's not the sun hitting our skin. It's the sun's rays entering the eye and affecting the brain.
Yeah.
So it releases and it starts a cascade of the feel-good hormones. So there's everything to be good about it. But again, what brought this to my attention was the picture of Arnold with a beach towel.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it's preposterous to think of a bodybuilder I love the sport. One of the greatest things to happen for women is again, you have to think of it carefully, but the women competing in fitness, figure, physique, bikini. It's by and large, it's very good for women, young women of all ages. It's encouraging them to exercise and care about what they're eating, and with the exception of there's a little bit of a eating disorder, kind of faulty thinking, a little bit within that community. Need to be careful there, but there's a lot of good there because we need to encourage the young people, this generation X and younger, I don't know what they call it any longer, but who have a preoccupation. It used to be video games, but now it's a preoccupation with a smartphone and everything that's going on there, from social media to games and everything else. So that is contributed to less exercise amongst young people, but that's being countered by some important fitness trends such as figure, physique, and then on the other avenue I think is terribly beneficial and positive too is CrossFit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We gotta get physically fit.
There's so much you can do, and age doesn't matter. I have a lot of men who write to me between the ages of 45 and 75, and they follow my lead because I'm 73. And what do you do to stay in shape and this and that? It's not easy as you get older. It's harder to get out of bed. It's harder to get to the gym. You go through some aches and pains and stiffness like we all do, even the young guys do. But once you're there and you get past your first set, you're doing okay.
That's it. Just get it started. I just recently, I've got this little thing I post on Instagram and Facebook called "Making You Better 30 Seconds at a Time," and I sometimes I get a little bit ahead and I archive these short videos with advice to people on how to be better when it comes to terms of their physical fitness and well-being. And one of the things I was just talking about the other day was the mental preparation, and I'll share with you now that there should be a mental process, a brief but definitive mental process as you walk into the gym, or as you're driving to the gym, or you're just going to that place where you exercise, whether that's a yoga class or a CrossFit class, whatever that is. And so here it is, real quick. Think about what it is you're trying to accomplish. If you just, too many people hit the gym front door of the gym, or hit the yoga studio or the Pilates, whatever turns you on. The main thing is that you're, first of all, congratulations, you're going someplace,
right.
you're doing it, even or if you're exercising at home. But then we need some mindfulness. Connect to that and say, what am I, for the next, look, I'm here, or I'm just about here, and then for the next 40 or 60 or 100 or 80 minutes, I'm going to be exercising. What do I want to get out of it? And for example, I'd like to build a little muscle. I'd like to, shape the way my derriere looks. I'd like to lose a little bit of body fat. I'd like to stretch and do my yoga and improve the mobility in my shoulders today. Think about that so that you can mindfully, so that when you begin your exercise process, you can create a connectedness there.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing. Over the years, I've said this many times, people said to me, what was your routine back in the day? I said, I'd do chest and back one day, shoulders and arms the next, and legs the next. And it worked for me. It worked for everybody back then. This is what we did. There wasn't much cardio. We did some stretching, and there wasn't any yoga really to speak of. But we did get in good shape, and it worked. Now when I go to the gym, I kind of take what I feel for the day. And if I walk in there and say, gee, I'm not quite sure what I want to do, I always start with some cardio. I do the bike or something just to warm up, get my blood flowing. Then I'll pick apart. Like today I went in and I did back. Well, okay, I did back, and it kind of works the back of my shoulders, so I went ahead and did shoulders too. So I did back and shoulders. Normally I would do chest and shoulders, or I would do something else. But because my mind said do this, and I kind of felt enthused about it, I ended up getting a terrific workout.
There you go. And that's, get what you can on that particular workout,
right.
because it works the other way.
Yeah.
So some, for example, recently I had a real plan. I came into the gym. I was gonna do chest and back, and I was starting with my back, and I'm just about completed that. I'm just about to start on the chest, and a guy comes up to me and starts a conversation with me. In fact, it was somebody that had spotted me on social media, and he had a question for me. Great. Well, it became a very engaging conversation, and I have no regrets that I took 25 minutes that I hadn't planned on to talk with this guy.
Time.
It's a long time. And by the way, and that was my time. So I didn't get around to training my chest. Part of what I am looking to accomplish when I go to the gym, in addition to strengthening and mobility, is there's a social element to that. It is part of my feel good.
Yeah.
Now, 25 minutes is not how I normally go. I meet somebody and talk to them for 25 minutes. That's normally not about how I go about my business. But on this particular day, it just worked out that way, and I'm building my network. And this guy's former military. We might even end up doing some kind of a project together. Who knows? But that is part of the gym for me, and I know you too, is a considerable part of my social world.
It is. You get up in the morning, you have to have a destination. My mom lived till 97, and in her 80s, she wasn't doing anything. She was living a leisure world, but she got up every morning at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, got dressed, went out to her coffee shop, and had social contact with friends. And she says, if I don't do that, I feel like I'm alone all day long. And she says, Rick, I don't live near you, but from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until bedtime, I'm by myself, which is really sad. So by having that social contact, it really helped her day because she didn't feel so alone anymore. Now, going to the gym for me and you is business because we work out, we make our contacts, it's social media. We have ideas. I get ideas for the show. I get guests for the show. I get sponsors. I get things that keep my life busy and active and fun. And then I come home and I execute them when I am like here with you now. You called me this morning, how's today to do a show? Great, let's meet for lunch, come back, and what we're going to talk about? We didn't know until we sat down here. right?
Yeah.
But it comes out. It just kind of flows out. And my girlfriend says, you talk, it just comes out your ass. You talk. But I'm gifted that I can do that, and I can find things that are interesting, because history is interesting, which in school was not interesting for me. I had the most boring history teacher in the world. I wanted to fall asleep. But so what we're talking about is what your lifestyle is, and it is interesting to see where it all came from.
It is, and also to just the fact that you and I both were able to, and I think this is important to not be so rigid in our training and how our day is going to work out in the gym, and to be pliable, so that when something comes up. Again, you added a body part because you were feeling great. I had to subtract a body part because it was something of a business meeting occurred, and that I like. What I like about that is it takes the pressure off of what exactly I need to, or put this too much pressure on yourself if you need to accomplish something. And when you leave the gym, if you haven't done it, you might feel badly about yourself. I don't do that at all. I go about trying, with an open heart, a plan, but an open heart. And to your point, if I am feeling better, I can add sets or exercises, and go with that flow. The body is an amazing, malleable organism, and it will respond. Again, this is Hans Seeley taught us 70 years ago. The principles, the said principles, a specific adaptation to the imposed demand. So that's the stress, the exercises that you choose to put on your biceps, you're going to trigger them to grow. If you're doing a bicep curl, don't expect growth in your chest, but you can reasonably expect it in your biceps. That's the specific imposed demand on that muscle. Yeah. So go in with a plan, and also give yourself enough freedom to respond if the next time you show up to the gym, that area feels too sore. You might want to give it an extra day. Yeah,
of course. I found that time off actually helps more.
Yeah.
I take more time off than I ever did in my life. I'll take every third day off, or maybe a couple of days here, and I come back and I'm good to go. I'll go and do the bike. I won't do any weights, but my body recovers better, and because of that, the past 2 weeks I put on probably 8-9 pounds of muscle.
It's one thing you and I have talked about a couple of times, I know, over the years, and that is the acute exercise variables, which is to say, by the way, I know the exercises, very common thought process is, I know the exercises that make for example, my chest muscles feel, my pectoral, feeling like they're going to work, they're going to grow, they're going to get the shape I want. However, I know you asked your guests this question a lot. How frequently, by the way, should I train my chest? And also, but the other things are, how many exercises should I do? How many reps should I do? How much rest time should I do in between my sets? And by the way, and how much recovery before I train my chest muscles again? Yeah. There's no perfect answer to that. However, much of the answer lies within personal experience. Yes. And
just going to say that when you brought that up, is trial and error. If you go back to the days of the Steve Reeves characters, back in those days, the bodybuilders, they all trained 3 times a week. Every muscle 3 times a week. They would do the whole body. They didn't do a lot of sets. They did 3 extras, maybe 3 sets each, but they grew because they had days off in between. Now, back in the 70s when I started coming down here to train, it was each muscle twice a week. And it worked really well. And then after that, for about 5 or 6 years later, it became, just do each muscle once a week. I tried that for a while, and I didn't think it was enough. It just didn't seem to be enough for me. Sets and reps, back in the day, I did sometimes 20, 25 sets, which is way too much. But I was young, I could handle it. Now I do, like back today, I did 3 different exercises of 4 sets each, around 12 reps, 10 reps, whatever. And then I went to shoulders and did the same thing. That worked perfect. It was just enough to stimulate the muscle and get response out of it. Then this kid asked me, he's in good shape, he said, how many abs should I do, or how many reps of abs? I said, I don't know, maybe 100 leg raises. That's all I ever did, and I had great abs. The rest came from diet. You can work your abs so much, and I know me, if I work them too hard, they get protrude, and they get thick, and they look fat. And I don't want big abs sticking out like a belly.
Agreed. And here's a pro tip that's worked for me, is I tell people, people years ago used to talk about it more so than ever. I think maybe it's less. Talk about overtraining. All right, overtraining. Nobody wants to make sure that you. I've heard this. People. I work with my personal coaching with people, and I have people all the time, very deconditioned people, say to me, "Oh, by the way, I read this article. Make sure you don't overtrain me."
Yeah.
Overtrain you?
Yeah.
That is such a rare thing. I say this: I'm going to challenge you to feel like you're overtrained, and that means working out a lot, like every single day, probably twice a day, with a great deal of intensity. That's what's required to overtrain the muscles. The muscles can take a lot. Most people are so woefully undertrained. Mm-hmm. So I challenge you, go out, if you're really trying to make some gains, whatever they are, whatever, male, female, whatever your gains means to you, try to overtrain. And if you do achieve that, I mean, if you get totally exhausted, I mean, you just can't get enough sleep and you're losing a lot of weight, that's the symptoms of overtraining.
Well, I used to do that. I mean, I've done it. I fall asleep at stoplights. And it's being sore all the time and not having a desire to do anything. You don't want to go to the gym. You get up, you're lethargic. And it can happen. But
rare.
Yeah, it's rare.
And then what did you do?
I'd sleep. I'd take a
day off. More sleep.
Yeah, I'd take a day off.
Take 1 day off.
Yeah.
2 days off. And then eat a little more.
Right.
Fixed.
Yeah, it's done.
But now you know, I mean, I know this. You were training like an animal to get to that.
Yeah, but people come up to me now in business when I'm out with my girlfriend for dinners and stuff. And I said this, they judge a book by its cover. They said, "Oh my God, you must work out 8 hours a day." I said, "No, why would you even say that?" "Well, you know, the way you're built." I said, "This is 50 years to get like this." And I would train maybe an hour, sometimes an hour and a half back in those days. Now it's 45 minutes. And it just maintains, and I can grow from that, and that's fine. But I don't spend all my day in the gym. I wouldn't be able to make a living or do what I want to do if I did that. And people get this misconception thinking you're a bodybuilder, all you do is train. Now, there are guys that do that. I've seen them in Venice. They're laying around all day long with their big water bottle and their food, and they leave and they come back and they walk in the gym like elephants, right? And
a lot of women too.
Yeah, a lot of women too. It's like this is their whole life. It's a business, and they're not making a dime. They're sleeping in their cars and they're broke.
Yeah, no, there is also that place. That's funny that you mentioned that, but it's a true phenomenon that and everybody who's a member of a big gym has got that one or two guys and gals that they never leave the gym and they're working out obsessively, and guarantee you they never have a physique that you admire or respect. They're training this way because of an emotional problem.
Yeah. They're members of the NFL. You know what that means?
No.
No friends left.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're at the gym looking for clues.
Yeah, they're looking to find themselves, and that's sad. I understand that. Everybody has to have the thing that satisfies them, and the gym is a medicine. I mean, it definitely is a medicine. I wouldn't want to live without it.
You know, if I could put a fine point on that, I would say that exercise is medicine. The gym is the place that's housing it.
Right.
Where we go. Again, find that place if you hadn't found it yet. I believe the overwhelming majority of your audience has already found that place to go to. And by the way, that could be running, that could be swimming,
anything.
My neighbor who's in her 30s and very fit has a body and a physique that you absolutely would respect and admire. But her thing is a little bit of swimming, a little bit of running, and a little bit of biking. And she actually competes in like 2 triathlons.
You just have to find the time. That's the hardest thing.
That one is time consuming.
That's the hardest thing.
Correct.
I mean, if you're going to make a living and have a business like I do and you do, my morning hours is my time for the gym, and then after that I can do what I go, get my coffee, do whatever shopping I need to do, have lunch, come home, go to work, and I'm here from 1 till 6 doing my shows and all the other things. When people say, "Oh, you got so much time, you don't do anything," I do a lot. And I've been doing this since I was 18, and they think, "Oh, I must have all the time in the world to sit around and do nothing." No, things don't get done like that. Even when I'm sleeping, I'm thinking about the next day. Mm-hmm. And it's people don't see that. They just think you just walk around and you don't do anything but work out. But it's so far from that, it's ridiculous.
I wish I could claim this as an original notion, but I want to give credit to my friend, again, my doctor friend, Rob Huizinga. Who was the Raiders team doctor when I was there, and he was for the entire run of The Biggest Loser, he was the supervising physician on that show. So what he did was make sure that everybody, all these obese contestants, had a very, very thorough physical, because there was a real risk that these people could get very sick or even die.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was in charge of that and then overseeing their health. He was just behind the scenes, and he would be on the show from time to time. But he runs a wellness and fat loss clinic and a weight loss clinic in Malibu. And one of the things that he implores upon the people that come and visit him to lose weight is, he said, and who are very often they'll say, "Oh, I don't have the time for that." He says, I promise you this. If you exercise, he goes, "I don't know how this works, but I know it's true. If I exercise," this is Rob Huizinga speaking, he's very fit. If you exercise 1 hour a day," he goes, "for some reason I'm able to get an extra hour of productivity out of my life."
Yeah.
He says, "I can't explain it, but I noticed the same thing." Yeah. And then the day that I don't exercise for whatever reason, why is it I just feel like I didn't get that much done?
That's such a good point. I come home from the gym like I do now, and I go to work. And then maybe about 4 o'clock, I'm at the computer and I'm editing, and I'll feel my eyes start to go. And I start going, pretty soon I'm just like out. And I take about 10 or 15 minutes and I just sit there like this. And then I wake up and I say, well, that was a little short 15-minute nap. I feel wonderful after that. If I lay down on the couch in the living room, it ends up being an hour, and then I feel like hell. It just knocks me out. Now, on a day, let's say I go to the gym every day. I even go Sundays and ride the bike, because if I don't go to the gym, I don't get some sort of exercise. I wake up and I'm lethargic all day. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. Yeah. My body goes into some state where it can't even function because it's used to having exercise, and it just sits back and does absolutely nothing. Right?
It's so true. I have a couple of big dogs. I walk them. I get automatically at least 90 minutes of exercise most days just walking. That's a whole separate subject I could talk about, but I get, in the era of the smartphone, I get all my emails, social media, my reading, and phone calls done while I'm walking my dogs. There's no reason I need to be stuck in front of a computer when I've got the phone, so I do this.
Okay, I'm going to close this up, but I want to say one thing about the phone. I told my girl this.
Okay.
We go to dinner at night to a nice restaurant, put your phone away. Do not leave it on the table. Don't keep checking your email and texting and checking your social media, because you're with me. I'm buying you dinner. We're on a date. I want your attention. Please don't put your attention on your phone, because I read an article about that. It ruins relationships.
I believe that.
And if you go out with the kids and everybody's on their phone at dinner, I've seen this with families, no one talks. And communication is the key to getting along and good health and a good relationship. And you can't communicate when that phone's controlling your life all the time.
I like that. I think we just finished this conversation with two important suggestions about how your smartphone can benefit your life. In one way, using it as you're walking, and that's a form of exercise for sure. And the other is put it away to benefit your relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I was a kid and we didn't have that, and you only had a phone in the house, you had to go home and pick up the phone to use it, or you had a voicemail, you had to come home and check it. You didn't have your phone with you, and you had more time to socialize and talk to people. And even in the gyms where there was a communication, we had the camaraderie, because everybody talked to each other. They didn't have headsets, they didn't have phones, they didn't have music playing. We actually sat and talked. And this is how you learned. Where can people find you now on the internet, because you can look you up?
Yeah, no, Instagram is probably the best way. My name, Petekoch, Pete Koch. It's just that simple. Yeah, go ahead and like something that you find interesting, follow, and I'll look forward to that.
Every time I sit on the stool, my leg falls asleep. I'm going to sue my leg for non-support. By the way, be sure and check out my Gold's Gym logo that I do. I do draw and I autograph, and I sell it as a piece of bodybuilding history. It's available. I get a lot of orders for it. If you want to order for Christmas, for a gift, or for somebody, now's the time, because next week's probably going to be too late. And that's it. And thank you, Pete, for being here.
Appreciate you, Rick.
Thank you guys for watching Rick's Corner. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Remember to send all your gifts to my location. I will be very happy to have that. And stay tuned now for news, traffic, and weather. See you next time.
drasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.